I just say I felt every single one of those 700 days, honestly. I said however long I've been out, I felt every single one of those days. So getting back in shape and everything was definitely needed to feel that today. It is what it is. You know, I can't control what the fans do and what their, how they approach whenever I step on the field. My job is to go out there and execute and do my best as I can for the team.
After almost 2 years, Deshaun Watson returned to the football field on Sunday against his old former team, the Houston Texans, who traded him in the offseason to the Cleveland Browns after he didn't play at all in 2021 after allegations of sexual assault started to circulate. It's been a long time coming for Watson, but he's back and he looked really bad. It wasn't a great first appearance from Watson, but that was kind of expected. You go that long without playing, and of course it's going to take some time to get back in the swing of things. And I think he got better as the game went on, and I expect that to be the case all season. Game by game, he should theoretically get more and more comfortable, and likely better. So Deshaun Watson is bad right now, and had a bad Browns debut. But how long is it going to take for him to get back? Or can he even get back to what he once was? Deshaun Watson started a regular season game for the first time in 700 days, and you could tell that it had been a while. You'd expect him to probably not be 100% right off the bat, but there were plenty of little things that were just bad. There were a lot of passes that were short or low. His release looked a little funky, and I don't know why. It's not like he forgot how to throw, but there were plenty of instances where the ball was really low where it hits his receiver at the feet. The best example of that was early in the third quarter, a big third down. Amari Cooper is able to get some separation along the sideline, and Deshaun Watson puts it right at his feet for an incomplete pass. The third drive of the game for the Browns was rough. On a 2nd and 6, Deshaun Watson drops back and has Amari Cooper on a slant and just throws it very low for an incomplete pass. Cleveland did get the first on the next play, but it was an unnecessarily tough play for Kareem Hunt. He went out on a curl and snagged it, but had to make a very hard catch because Deshaun essentially threw it at the ground. That drive eventually ended up with a really bad interception from Deshaun. The Browns were in the red zone and Cleveland went with a run-pass option. Watson takes the snap, looks over the middle of the field, and delivers a strike directly to the Texans. It's almost like he forgot what team he was on. He was looking for Amari Cooper, but not really sure how Watson didn't see Jalen Petrie. I did think the lack of chemistry between Deshaun Watson and his receivers would be more notable. Obviously, it's going to get better with time, but it wasn't too bad. Just a few miscommunications, really. On a pretty important third down in the fourth quarter, Watson went for Cooper deep, but he had to cut back and wasn't there. On the flip side, I don't want to sit here and say that Deshaun Watson was all bad. He did show some flashes of exactly why the Browns decided to trade for him. We saw a little taste of his mobility in the fourth quarter, 2nd and very long, and Deshaun Watson steps up in the pocket and scrambles out for 11 yards. Having Deshaun Watson does also open up the playbook a lot. Midway through the fourth quarter, we saw what the running game could look like with Deshaun Watson behind center. The Browns ran a nice read option with Nick Chubb, and Deshaun Watson held on to rush out for 8 yards. The Cleveland Browns beat the Houston Texans 27-14 in Week 13. It looks like a pretty normal score, but no, the game was nuts. Cleveland did not score an offensive touchdown and trailed 5-0 early in the second quarter after a safety. Kyle Allen was absolutely terrible at quarterback for Houston, by the way. Still, the Texans had more first downs than the Browns, 16 to Cleveland's 14. The Texans had 201 passing yards, and the Browns only had 130. Much like we've seen all season, and really for the past few years, Cleveland relied on its run game. Nick Chubb rushed for 80 yards, and Kareem Hunt rushed for 56. Watson also rushed for an additional 21 yards. Deshaun Watson did not have the best stat line in his return, 12 of 22 for 131 yards and an interception for a 28.6 quarterback rating. 36 different quarterbacks dropped back to pass in Week 13, and Deshaun Watson graded out at 31st with a 48.3 passer grade. Additionally, only 2 wide receivers had 40 yards or more for Cleveland, Donovan Peoples-Jones with 44 and Amari Cooper with 40. The Browns probably shouldn't have won on Sunday. In fact, if they were playing any of the other 30 teams in the league, they would have likely lost. But Houston is just that bad. Cade York hit a 42-yard field goal and a 43-yarder to help seal the win. But like I said, the Browns did not have an offensive touchdown. Donovan Peoples-Jones took a punt back to the house late in the second quarter to give Cleveland a 7-5 lead into the half. The Texans did Texans things and essentially threw away the game with offensive incompetence. Right near their own end zone early in the third quarter, Kyle Allen fumbled and Denzel Ward had the easiest 4-yard scoop and score you'll ever see. Tony Fields forced a fumble, and man did he have a game. In the fourth quarter, he picked off Kyle Allen on a deflection and ran it into the end zone for a touchdown. Fields also recovered a Desmond King fumble on a punt return later in the quarter. In other words, the Cleveland Browns defense and special teams bailed out a bad Deshaun Watson return performance. Deshaun Watson requested a trade from the Texans after the 2020 season because he was upset with the front office and coaching changes, but Houston refused until allegations of sexual harassment surfaced. Watson sat out the entire 2021 season, and Houston ultimately did trade him along with a 6th-round pick to the Cleveland Browns in exchange for 3 first-rounders, a 3rd, and a 4th. Cleveland signed him to a 5-year, fully guaranteed $230 million deal. There have been more than 20 lawsuits filed against Watson. A grand jury did decide to not indict him in March of 2022, but that didn't escape punishment from the NFL. The league did seek a full-year suspension for him, but they came to a settlement which would have him suspended for 11 games and a $5 million fine. The Browns ended up having a Week 9 bye, which meant that Deshaun Watson's eventual return was going to be in Week 13, which happened to be at the Houston Texans. About 10 of the women who accused Watson of sexual harassment actually attended the game, which is kind of wild. As you'd expect, Deshaun Watson was met with a lot of boos. Before almost every snap in the first half, boos rained down on Watson. There were plenty of jokes thrown his way too. One fan was spotted wearing a shirt that said, "I need a massage." Some of the fans in the parking lot actually set up a fake massage table with a mannequin wearing a Texans jersey. There were just a lot of shots taken at Deshaun Watson, and his poor play only fueled those fans. I'm not really worried about Deshaun Watson, really at all. It was a bad debut with the Cleveland Browns, but it wasn't anything unexpected. I think it was completely normal that Watson would have his struggles in the first game back. He hasn't played in a full-speed regular season game in like a year and a half. Add in that he's with a brand new team, and he has to adjust to new receivers and protections all in a new scheme. I mean, it makes sense. Not only just the play on the field, but he was back in Houston, and I'm sure mentally trying to block out all the booing and a lot of wild things said and signs from fans was pretty hard. I think that's going to be something that follows him around for the rest of his career. The same way Kareem Hunt is never going to escape kicking that young woman at a hotel, or Joe Mixon will never live down punching a girl at a bar in college. It's just something that's going to follow him around. It will eventually slow down though, and once he gets back to elite form like we saw in Houston, he'll be fine. Cleveland fans will take him in and accept him regardless, and eventually we'll all move on. Whether or not that's the correct or moral thing, it's just the reality. I think Deshaun Watson is a very talented quarterback, and I think Kevin Stefanski is a good coach too. Cleveland should absolutely be able to figure it out and be very good in the future. The question is, how long is that going to take? Will Cleveland look great in a few weeks, or will it take a full offseason? I don't know. How long do you think it'll take Deshaun Watson to look like his old self? Or will he ever look like that ever again?